I took some time to thoroughly play the new Halo Infinite Season 4, and I gotta be real with you guys. Even though they added some really cool things like a Ranked Slayer playlist, Infection, new maps, and as of recording this, they're gonna have added Plaza, which Plaza is always a W in my books. It's still just such a mid-season, man. It's not really anything impressive or special. The best way to look at these Halo Infinite seasons going forward is just Halo Infinite is a mediocre game. And if you're okay with it being mediocre, then, go ahead and play it, especially now that the career progression is out. But if you were expecting a good Halo game, then just go play Halo MCC or just pretend Halo doesn't exist anymore, because I don't really think 343 has the talent or the heart to, make a good Halo game. Just so many things went against this game. I think Microsoft/343 is solely to blame for this. I mean, it's their game. So, now I'm going to get into more detail on why I think even though a lot of good things were added this season, it's still just really mid. Now on to the first point is that Infection is fun to play. Like, I will play it once in a while. But it's just an okay variant of Infection. It's not really anything special. It's never going to top Halo Reach Infection, and Halo 5 Infection was better than even Halo Infinite, in my opinion. And I think one of the big things about it just took almost 2 years for it to launch, so that immediately puts a sour taste in my mouth before anything. Past about how long it took Infection to get into Halo Infinite, the number one thing I have against Halo Infinite's Infection variant is just the fact that the survivors have too many weapons at their disposal. Like, I've seen survivors with rockets, with snipers, with skewers, and with sentinel beams, for example. And I just don't like the variety of weapons that the survivors have. And I feel it's a severe miscalculation on what Infected really is. Because to me, Infected survivors should be having, something like a pistol, a shotgun, maybe an AR, maybe one BR. But they shouldn't really be having a whole lot of crazy stuff. Like, I should not be getting meleeed by a survivor that is invisible. Because to me, the alpha zombies are the ones that should be invisible, not the survivors. Also, talking about the zombies, I kind of wish the beta zombies would get thrusters instead of the transmute locator, because I feel that would just be better for them, and they could do more jukes and stuff, and maybe dodge rockets, snipers, skewers, and all those type of weapons better, instead of the transmute locator, because even though it can be useful if used at the right time, I feel it may be a little too skilled for the more average social player than obviously the thrusters would be. Also, another thing I really don't like about Halo Infinite's Infection is that every single game of Infection I've played, there have always been bots in the game. And I do not understand why there are bots in Infection. I don't like it. I wish there were players instead of bots. Because anytime in any game mode that I kill bots, I immediately just deflate, because it is just the dumbest thing. Because the bots really aren't that hard to kill, and I would rather be killing players. I mean, that's why I'm playing multiplayer instead of, let's say, bot boot camp. I want to kill players, not robots. And I need to say this because I've noticed it in every single game of Infection I've played. And lastly, I'm really not happy that it took almost 2 years for this to come out. And I feel like the reason we waited so long for Infection to come out in the first place is just for the simple fact that they wanted to tie this Infected game mode into the story narrative. And to me, it's just like, don't be withholding game modes and content for the sake of your story. Because at the end of the day, I don't think the average player cares about your story narrative. So the fact that you were withholding content that could have easily been put into the game, that has been put into previous Halo games, is just a big L by 343's part. I don't know what they were thinking with that. Especially with how starved for content the player base was at the beginning of Halo Infinite. Now, the next edition that took Halo Infinite too long to release is honestly Ranked Slayer. And it is a good addition, but they really added some dumb things to the game mode that I really wish they didn't. Number one, I don't know why Cliffhanger and Behemoth is in the map rotation. It does not belong in any sort of ranked game mode at all, except maybe ranked snipers. I don't know. Don't play snipers. And I don't understand why the radar is on and the AR is a starting weapon for the ranked playlist. But I am cool with the bandit start. It's just when you have an AR with the bandit, no one ends up using the bandit because it's really underpowered compared to the AR. So you just end up having people that are just gonna spray the trigger down, and you just kind of hope that your AR hits more shots than the enemy's AR. I do think the bandit rifle could work in a ranked playlist starting weapon. I just think it needs to be the only starting weapon like the BR is in ranked arena, because when you give people the option of other weapons, the bandit rifle just isn't as good as them. Now, I'd like to talk about the new Spartan abilities that were added into Season 4 of Halo Infinite. And the first one on that list is the Transmute Locator. Honestly, it's an okay gimmick, but I would prefer the Shroud Screen, the Grappling Hook, or even Overshield / Invis over it, because honestly, I mean, it has utility. But to me, it's just the main thing to kind of escape a fight you're about to lose. Go, get your shields back up, and then go back into the area to see if the enemies are still hanging about. It's not really anything that special. And the other ability in the game, honestly, isn't really that unique. It seems like the threat sensor to me, but just maybe slightly upgraded. Not really worth talking about. I don't know why they made a kind of a big deal about it. I'm just gonna move on. I'd like to note that I would have preferred something like the Sticky Detonator from Halo 4 or the OG Pump Shotgun, since Infection did just come out, and I feel like the original Halo Pump Shotgun would just be better for the overall experience than the Transmute Locator has been, or the other Spartan ability will be. Now I'd like to talk about the new maps that were added with Season 4. And to begin the discussion, I want to talk about the 4v4 map Forest. It feels like it's Sanctuary, but they 343'd it, because there's just so much clutter all over the map, and in my opinion, as someone who's played Ranked Slayer and Social Team Slayer on that map, it just feels so bad, man. It's just not a good feeling map. It's all cluttered, there's so much stuff everywhere. And I just kind of wish the dev team for 343 would focus on making 12v12 maps and just let the community make the 4v4 maps, because in my opinion, from the winter update and onwards, the 4v4 maps they've released have been from mid to bad. And I haven't played the new Plaza map yet, but I am kind of worried that they probably ruined the aesthetic of Plaza, because if you look at what they did with the pit, that aesthetic for that map is just terrible. But on a positive note with the maps, I do think Scar is a good big team battle map, and I hope the dev team makes more of those instead of 4v4. Now, let's talk about the most embarrassing thing that was added with Season 4, is the career progression. And I call it embarrassing because it should have been there at launch. The number one thing about the career progression in Halo Infinite is I think they should have just copied MCC from a design standpoint, in my opinion. It is superior in every way. The way they copied the prestiges like they did with the ranked playlists was just kind of lazy. I just don't understand why you don't reuse stuff from MCC that was good and people just seem to love it, especially when the stuff you had in MCC is just 10 times better than what you've currently put into the game. It's okay to reuse assets 343, especially when you make us wait 2 years for the new thing, and the new thing ends up being worse than the old thing. And the biggest L from this career progression is the fact that they did not reward longtime players that have been playing the game before it came out, even though it should have been there at launch. So me, for example, I played over 2,000 games of Halo Infinite before the career progression came out, but it doesn't mean squat because I got to start out as a bronze cadet just like everyone else. And I'd like to say that I hope 343 learns from what they've done with Halo Infinite when it comes to the career progression or infection or anything else. But the fact of the matter is that 343 doesn't really learn anything, and when the next Halo game comes out, everyone that's at 343 right now working on Halo Infinite probably isn't going to be working for the company when the next one comes out, so just keep that in mind, guys. This is the end of the video, guys. Thank you for watching the video. If you have your own thoughts and opinions on Halo Infinite, especially during Season 4, let me know in the comments, and...
I'm sorry, sir. It's time for you to leave.